In the heart of the English countryside, where the rolling hills met dense forests, stood an old, weather-beaten mansion known as Hartwood Hall. The locals spoke of it in hushed tones, recounting tales of its illustrious past and the tragic events that had befallen it. Among the many stories, one name was whispered more than any other. Evelyn Hartwood Evelyn was a woman of striking beauty and enigmatic charm. Her auburn hair flowed like a river of fire, and her emerald eyes seemed to pierce through the souls of those who gazed into them. She had inherited Hartwood Hall after the untimely death of her parents in a mysterious fire that consumed the east wing of the mansion. The tragedy left her an orphan at the tender age of 16, and the sprawling estate became both her sanctuary and her prison. The villagers regarded Evelyn with a mix of awe and suspicion. Rumours circulated that she was a nymphomaniac, a woman driven by insatiable desires that knew no bounds. Some said she had inherited a curse. Others believed she was simply a woman ahead of her time, unafraid to embrace her sexuality in a society that sought to suppress it. Regardless of the truth, Evelyn's life was a tapestry woven with threads of passion, heartbreak, and unending tragedy. It was a warm summer evening when Evelyn first met Theodore Hawke, a dashing young artist from London. He had come to the countryside seeking inspiration and found himself captivated by the haunting beauty of Hartwood Hall. The moment their eyes met, a spark ignited between them, and Theodore knew he had found his muse. Evelyn welcomed Theodore into her home, and they quickly became inseparable. He spent his days painting her, capturing her essence on canvas, while she found solace in his presence. For the first time since her parents' death, Evelyn felt a glimmer of happiness. Yet their love was not meant to last. Theodore was already betrothed to another, a wealthy socialite named Amelia Wentworth. The engagement had been arranged by their families, and breaking it off would bring scandal and ruin. Despite this, Theodore and Evelyn continued their clandestine affair, meeting in secret and cherishing every stolen moment together. Their happiness was short-lived. Amelia, sensing Theodore's growing distance, followed him to Hartwood Hall one fateful night. She watched from the shadows as her fiancé and Evelyn made love in the moonlit garden. Overcome with rage and jealousy, Amelia confronted them, her words laced with venom. "You wretched whore!" she screamed at Evelyn. "You've bewitched him with your wicked ways." Evelyn stood tall, her eyes burning with defiance. "Theodore and I share a love you could never understand. Leave us be." But Amelia would not be swayed. She stormed back to London, vowing to destroy Evelyn and reclaim what was rightfully hers. Amelia's return to London set off a chain of events that would shatter the lives of all involved. She spread rumours about Evelyn, accusing her of debauchery and witchcraft. The whispers grew louder, reaching the ears of the village and beyond. Theodore, torn between his love for Evelyn and his duty to his family, succumbed to the pressure and ended their affair. Heartbroken and betrayed, Evelyn retreated into the shadows of Hartwood Hall. She became a recluse, rarely seen by the villagers, who now regarded her with a mixture of pity and fear. The once vibrant woman was now a ghost of her former self, haunted by the memories of her lost love. Years passed, and the world outside continued to change. The Great War erupted, claiming countless lives and leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Hartwood Hall remained untouched by the conflict, but its isolation grew ever more pronounced. Evelyn, now in her late 30s, wandered the halls of the mansion, a solitary figure draped in sorrow. One stormy night, a knock echoed through the grand foyer. Evelyn, curious and wary, opened the door to find a young soldier standing in the rain. His uniform was tattered, and his eyes were filled with a weariness that spoke of horrors witnessed on the battlefield. "Please, ma'am," he said, his voice trembling, "I seek shelter from the storm." Evelyn's heart softened at the sight of him. She welcomed the soldier into her home, offering him warmth and sustenance. As they sat by the fire, he introduced himself as James Blackwood, a private in the King's army. Over the following days, a fragile bond formed between them. James shared stories of the war, and Evelyn in turn spoke of her life and the ghosts that haunted Hartwood Hall. Their companionship brought a semblance of peace to Evelyn, but it was fleeting. One evening as they walked through the garden, a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. James stopped suddenly, his face pale and eyes wide with terror. "Evelyn, we must leave this place," he whispered urgently. "There is a darkness here, a malevolent force that seeks to consume you." Evelyn laughed softly, a bitter sound that echoed through the night. "The darkness is within me, James. There is no escaping it." Before James could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Amelia, her face twisted with rage and madness. She had returned to exact her final revenge. "You cannot hide from me, Evelyn," Amelia spat. "I will see you destroyed for what you've done." James stepped forward, trying to shield Evelyn from Amelia's fury, but it was too late. In a flash of violence, Amelia lunged at them, her knife gleaming in the moonlight. The struggle was brief but brutal. James fell to the ground, blood seeping from a wound in his side, while Evelyn and Amelia grappled desperately. In the chaos, Evelyn managed to wrest the knife from Amelia's grasp. With a cry of anguish, she plunged it into Amelia's chest, ending her tormentor's life. As Amelia's body crumpled to the ground, Evelyn sank to her knees, tears streaming down her face. The tragedy did not end there. James, gravely wounded, lay dying in the garden. Evelyn cradled him in her arms, her heart breaking anew. "Forgive me," James whispered, his voice weak. "I could not save you." "You saved me in ways you will never know," Evelyn replied, her voice choked with emotion. "Rest now, my dear James. Find peace." As the first light of dawn broke over Hartwood Hall, James took his final breath. Evelyn buried him in the garden, marking his grave with a simple stone. She stood there for a long time, the weight of her losses pressing down on her. Years turned into decades, and Hartwood Hall fell into disrepair. The once grand mansion became a relic of the past, a testament to the tragedies that had unfolded within its walls. Evelyn, now an old woman, remained there, her spirit as broken as the house she inhabited. One cold winter's night, as the wind howled through the empty halls, Evelyn made her way to the garden one last time. She stood by James's grave, her heart heavy with the memories of all she had lost. The cold seeped into her bones, but she did not feel it. Her mind was elsewhere, lost in the past. With a final breath, Evelyn whispered into the night, "Theodore, James, forgive me." As she closed her eyes, the wind carried her words away, and Evelyn Hartwood, the nymphomaniac who had loved and lost, was finally at peace. The tragic tale of Hartwood Hall came to an end, but the echoes of its past lingered on, a haunting reminder of the pain and passion that had once filled its walls. Decades after Evelyn's passing, Hartwood Hall remained a crumbling monument to a bygone era. The village had changed, modernised, but the mansion stood as a haunting reminder of the tragedies that had unfolded within its walls. Overgrown vines and wildflowers claimed the once manicured gardens, and the house was a labyrinth of shadows and silence. One day, a historian named Clara Reynolds arrived in the village, drawn by the legends of Hartwood Hall. Clara was a woman of intellect and determination, her curiosity piqued by the stories she had heard. She rented a small cottage and spent her days interviewing the older villagers, collecting fragments of the past like pieces of a puzzle. Clara was particularly fascinated by Evelyn Hartwood. She felt a strange connection to the enigmatic woman and was determined to uncover the truth behind the rumours. The villagers were reluctant to speak of Evelyn, their memories tainted by fear and superstition, but Clara persisted. Slowly, she pieced together the tragic love story, the betrayal, and the violence that had marked Evelyn's life. One stormy evening, Clara decided to explore Hartwood Hall herself. Armed with a flashlight and her notebook, she made her way through the overgrown path leading to the mansion. The wind howled around her, and the sky was a tumultuous sea of dark clouds. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Clara pushed open the heavy front door, its hinges creaking in protest. She stepped inside, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air was damp and musty, filled with the scent of decay. As she walked through the grand foyer, she could almost hear the echoes of laughter and music from a time long past. She climbed the grand staircase, each step a whisper of the mansion's former glory. The upper floors were a maze of rooms, each one telling its own story. She found the master bedroom with its large canopy bed and elegant furnishings now draped in dust and cobwebs. On a small table by the window, she discovered a weathered journal. Clara opened the journal, her fingers trembling with excitement. The pages were filled with Evelyn's handwriting, recounting her thoughts and experiences. As Clara read, she was drawn deeper into Evelyn's world, feeling her joys and sorrows, her passions and regrets. The journal was a window into a soul that had been misunderstood and maligned. Hours passed as Clara devoured the contents of the journal. She felt a profound sadness for Evelyn, a woman trapped by her circumstances and betrayed by those she loved. As the storm raged outside, Clara made a silent vow to tell Evelyn's story, to bring her truth to light. Lost in her thoughts, Clara didn't notice the flickering shadows around her until it was too late. A cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing her flashlight. The darkness closed in, and Clara felt a presence, a whisper of movement behind her. She turned, her heart pounding in her chest. Standing in the doorway was the ghostly figure of Evelyn Hartwood. Her eyes were filled with sorrow, her form shimmering like a wisp of smoke. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the apparition. "Evelyn," Clara whispered, her voice trembling, "I'm here to help you. I want to tell your story." The ghost of Evelyn gazed at Clara, her expression softening. She moved closer, her presence both chilling and comforting. Evelyn reached out, her translucent hand brushing Clara's cheek. "Thank you," Evelyn's voice was a faint echo, filled with gratitude and pain. "For seeing me, for understanding." Clara felt tears well up in her eyes. "You don't deserve to be forgotten, Evelyn. I will make sure the world knows the truth." Evelyn smiled, a sad and wistful expression. "My story is one of many. Hartwood Hall holds countless secrets, and it is time for them to be revealed." With those words, Evelyn's spirit began to fade, dissolving into the air like mist. Clara stood alone in the darkened room, a sense of resolve filling her heart. She knew her purpose now, and she would not rest until Evelyn's story, and the stories of all those who had lived and loved in Hartwood Hall, were told. Clara returned to her cottage, her mind racing with the revelations of the night. She pored over her notes and the journal, crafting a narrative that would do justice to Evelyn's memory. She worked tirelessly, her writing fueled by passion and empathy. Months later, Clara's book was published. Titled The Ghosts of Hartwood Hall, it became a sensation, captivating readers with its haunting tales and vivid characters. The book shed light on Evelyn's life, dispelling the rumours and showing her as a complex, courageous woman who had endured unimaginable hardships. The success of the book brought a renewed interest in Hartwood Hall. Historians, tourists, and paranormal investigators flocked to the mansion, eager to explore its mysteries. The village, once shrouded in superstition, embraced its newfound fame and the opportunity to share its rich history. Hartwood Hall was eventually restored, its beauty and grandeur brought back to life. It became a museum, dedicated to preserving the stories of those who had lived there. Evelyn's portrait hung in the grand foyer, a testament to her enduring spirit. Clara often visited the mansion, walking its halls, and feeling a deep connection to its past. She knew that Evelyn's spirit was at peace, her story finally told. Hartwood Hall, once a place of tragedy and sorrow, had become a beacon of history and hope, its walls echoing with the voices of those who had been forgotten no longer.